Welcome to Handmade Happenings. I'm Marissa. Today I'm showing you how to make a simple pouch with a flap and Velcro closure. These are really easy to make. They are nice gifts and great stash busting projects. They're also very customizable. You can leave them flat or add a base, and you can do them in whatever size you want. Start by cutting out 4 rectangles for the body of the bag, 2 from your main fabric and 2 from your lining. If you want a specific size, you just need to add seam allowance to all of the sides. And if you want to add a base, then you also have to add half of the desired base size to the height of your rectangle. So if you need a 2-inch base, add an inch to the height of the rectangle. Mine are all scrap busting projects, so I just cut mine based on the fabric I was using, and it's not all that even, but I'll deal with that later. You need to cut another rectangle for the flap. To determine the size, decide how far down the bag you want the flap to overlap, then double it for the short edge of your rectangle. The long edge should be slightly smaller than the width of the body piece of your bag, and I went half an inch shorter. Now take the flap and fold the short edge in half with the wrong sides together and press it. This should leave a crease at the center of the flap. Now cut a strip of Velcro for the closer. This can be as big or as small as you want, though it does need to be slightly smaller than the width of your flap. Unfold the flap and sew 1/2 of the Velcro to the right side of the fabric above the crease. Sew the other half of the Velcro to the right side of one of the main body pieces, using the flap to help determine the placement. Now fold the flap in half the opposite way so that the right sides are together with the Velcro on the inside, and sew both of the short edges. Turn the flap right side out and press. At this point you can top stitch it if you want. I didn't, just for simplicity and because I didn't want to change my thread color. Now take the main body rectangle that doesn't have Velcro and place it face up. Then center the flap on top of it with the Velcro facing up, and line the raw edges of the flap up with the top edge of the main rectangle. Take one of the lining rectangles and put it on top, again lining up those top raw edges. Pin it in place and sew along that top edge. Take the other main piece, that's the one with the Velcro, and the remaining lining piece, and place them right sides together and again sew along that top edge. Now unfold each of the 2 pieces and then place them right sides together, matching up the seams. Make sure that the lining is together and the main fabric pieces are together. Now sew all the way around the piece, leaving a gap at the bottom of the lining. Be careful as you sew past the flap because you don't want to catch it in your stitches. Now this is where the uneven cutting that I had earlier became a slight problem. Some of my rectangles weren't the same size as the other pieces. And if you have this problem, you can either trim the larger piece down or just make sure that the smaller one is facing up as you sew. That way you can see where your seam needs to be and adjust it accordingly. Clip the 4 corners and then turn the pieces right side out using the gap that you left in the seam earlier. Now sew that opening closed. I did it on the sewing machine because it won't be seen. Now at this point you can push the lining into the main fabric, press everything, and just have a flat pouch. Or you can give it a base. To do that, tuck the main piece into the lining so that the bag is basically inside out. Now take the corner and fold it so that the side and bottom seams are on top of each other. Then measure in from the point half the amount of the desired size of your base. So if you want a 2-inch base, measure 1 inch in from the point. I just eyed it and did what looked good for each bag. Now sew a line through all 4 layers, and this line should create a triangle with that folded corner. And then repeat for the other corner. Now turn it right side out and press that top edge. This is also where you would top stitch it if you wanted to, and it's finished. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I hope you'll join me next time for another handmade happening.